Emilio, this is Dennis Clark, golf instructor in Naples, Florida. Yes, this video is much better. So I'll do an analysis here for you and I'll talk about what's going on. I forget what you said your ball flight problem was, but I'd be surprised if there's not some hooking in it and or blocking, because the first thing you have to realize is that right up here, this club face is extremely closed. You know, like on the 10 scale, it's probably an 8 closed. So we start looking for the root cause of that. And this bar that's across the driving range stall here, it's right in the middle of your grip. So I really can't see your right hand, but I typically see that kind of club face at the top of the swing with a very strong right hand grip. Let me see if I can see it from your other thing. So that would be one thing I would consider. The other thing is you want to look at your posture. And this can be a factor too. Your hands very low with a lot of hang down there. Ideally we want to get it through the belt buckle. So you've got a lot of bend, especially at the knees, which is causing your hands to hang low. And when your hands are low, it forces the club outside. Just the opposite, when people stand at the ball with their hands too high, it can force the club inside. So the lower your hands are, the more outside your club is. And you can see where your club starts, well outside the ball. So bringing that up at address would solve a lot of that. But even if you do bring it up at address, one of the swing issues you're going to have to be cognizant of is to make sure that the club gets more to the inside. Even when you do bring your hands up, you'll have to adjust to a new habit there. So very shut there. And the big issue what I would do is I'd try a little weaker right hand, and I would try to establish the posture that you saw there, and I'll bring another model up to show you that. The big issue, though, that you fight, like many club golfers, you have a nice swing, by the way. There's no reason you can't go really lower in your handicap, is that you have a fairly early release. And when you have the club face shut at the top and you add to that an early release and a certain amount of hang back like this, you are looking at left. So hooking the ball would be the root cause of the ball flight issue, but you may get blocks out of it too because of your, when you have a tendency to hook, you'll hold on a little bit. If you release it early, it's still a little bit outside the golf ball here. You can see if this camera is positioned correctly. The other thing you want to do is get rid of some of this, drive your right side past the golf ball. You got good speed, you got good balance. There's a couple mechanical flaws in here that would really square the club face at the top, turn your body through more as you come down so that you can slow the club down from closing. Let's see what we have here. I'll see if I can get a club face here, which you may want to look at. There's a difference, okay? So that's a lot of, I like the position of your left wrist here. It's nice and flat. So you have to adjust that shut face there because it'll lead to a lot of problems coming down. Usually I see that from a couple things, either flat, a strong grip, or insufficient rotation of your forearms, which you're doing some of too. You got to feel like you're fanning the club open a little bit more. But one of the things I don't like about the club face being that close at the top is that it causes you to have to hang on to impact. If you had a lot of, like him, if you had a lot of lag, really a lot of, late hit, it would be acceptable. You could play with a shut face like Paul Azinger did for years. But when you let it go like you are and the face is shut, you're going to throw it, number one, the early release is going to throw it outside the ball a little bit like this. And number two, the club face is going to turn over on you. That's the main issue that we're dealing with here. The posture you can fix just by, watching, you can watch some models on TV. Aaron Baddeley. Again, see how much you're bending at the knees and how low your hands are. Again, this is pretty neutral, belt buckle stuff. Your hands are real low. And again, that forces that club to the outside. The lower, if you hung it all the way down here and the club were like this, you'd already be way outside, right? So I would strongly suggest that, and I'd work on more rotation of your club face and your forearms as you're going back. You may also want to close that gap. You see how your left arm gets separated from your body there at this point in the swing? See, when he sends it to the inside, that left arm really works nice and tight to the body like that. So you're sending it out away because your hands are so low. This arm's going out away from your chest. You've got a big gap in there. Now you've got the club face, the club head stuck behind because of this gap here. So it's club in, hands out type of maneuver you have. Watch. Your hands are in, and they go out, and the club goes in. Now it's stuck pretty far behind you. These guys are really good at keeping the club face in line with their hands. So you want to be aware of that. I think just standing up is going to help you with that, and working. You could work with an aim stick here or something and just make sure your hands go inside of it going away. Hands out, club in, shut face from lack of rotation. Release early, so you're going to come up, stand up. See how much more vertically your club's coming in than when you started? You can notice here where he starts. And where he finishes. That's address. That's impact. So for you, we really can't get impact because the camera's not quite there, but we'll call that as close as we can. See where you're starting? Now watch where you come to when you hit the ball. Okay? Another thing you really have to watch when you bend this much is that forward lunge at the ball like this. So your shaft is 64 degrees and you had it at 48 degrees when you started. You've got to get the club back down into a little better plane position. Notice how he does that here. See that? See the club flattening there? He lays it down. Look how much turn he has through his body through it. Yours comes down steep. Not real steep. I get people that are like this. But steep enough that you're offsetting some of that closed face. So what happened for you very likely is that you've been playing for a while with a closed face, and bringing it down a little more steeply like this opens it. Because right here it's back in position a little bit shut. Then the early release and the bail out of it, and a little bit of hang back and lack of activity here. So in summary then, what I'd have you do is make sure your right hand, again I can't see it where you filmed it, make sure that that's on top of the club. Really work on your posture. I would work on a drill where I stiff-legged it and then just flexed my knee so that you want to put the butt of that club at your belt buckle. Work on a little bit of the club working more inside. Don't let your hands work outside. Work for a couple days with an aim stick in the ground right here. Let your arms roll a little bit to get rid of some of that shut face. And try to keep your posture as much as you can and not come off that. That's going to help you a lot with not standing the club up. Okay? So, you got a lot of good speed and you got a lot of good coordination and balance here. So it's a couple mechanical flaws. I don't know if you're self-taught or if you've had lessons, but there's no way you should be this far off of where you started with your posture or that vertical with your shaft. The other thing you can do with an aim stick is put one behind, put your butt up against it, and just try to keep it there so that you don't lunge forward out at the golf ball. There's a couple things for you to work on there, and I think you've got a good chance to make some solid improvement. All right, good luck.